Since a lot of you guys were asking me to document my build and go through how I made that 632 horsepower number, I'm gonna go through how we made that much horsepower, and then we're gonna go through sort of what's going on with the next part of the build to really go to that 1,000 horsepower mark.
So I really didn't want to make this a bait and clip video, but let me show you guys the finished motor and some dyno runs that we did at Dyno Motorsports in Toronto. So at this point, we were trying to dial in two-step, but we realized that I had a failing speed sensor, so we couldn't really do much about that. But I'll let you guys hear some snap, crackle, and pop. So with the final dyno pull, we cranked out 632 horsepower to the hub, which at about 18% drivetrain loss is about 745 horsepower at the crank. So now that we got the fun stuff over, let's get to, I guess, the more boring stuff. I know this is a really bad engine reveal, mainly because we took the motor apart. But first, let me talk to you guys about the upgrades, and then we'll go into the reason why we pulled the motor apart. The motor itself is a 05U RB26 block. We overbored it and used a combination of 86.5 CP pistons and Manley rods. The motor is from an early R32. The actual crank itself is stock, but we upgraded the oil pump and the crank collar to the Dyno Performance Engineering collar and their oil pump, which I highly recommend because we all know RBs suffer from tons and tons of oiling issues. Now to the motor and why it's apart. The car itself was running great for some time until we noticed that we were pressurizing the cooling system because the overflow on the actual car itself, it kept on overflowing and the radiator would constantly be empty, so there was some sort of pressure loss. And then this happened. So when we saw the smoke, we definitely knew something was wrong. And at this point, the car was misfiring like crazy. It started off at a higher RPM and gradually made its way down to lower RPM around the 2000 range, where it barely kept itself alive. So we decided to take the spark plugs out and put a borescope down the cylinder holes. And when we looked at cylinder number 4, it was super shiny. So I knew right away there was water getting into the actual cylinder itself. Now, if it was a cracked block or a bad head gasket, we didn't know that. So Then we pulled the head off, looked at the head gasket, and the Tomei head gasket did fail. So at this point, it could have been as simple as just putting in a new head gasket and sealing it all up and calling it a day, but you know, some of us don't really like to take the easy route, and I really wanted to make some more power. So first I'll go over all of the supporting mods that went into this specific build, and then I'll go into what we're going to be doing with the next build. The turbo that I went with was the Garrett GTX 3576R Gen 2 turbo. These specific turbos are about 20% more efficient than the previous generation, and this coupled with the 0.82 AR housing was just amazing with this specific motor setup. Just like the majority of Garrett's turbo offerings, these specific turbos do have the dual ball bearings, and Garrett also offers the ability to swap out different housings and actually order them with a ton of different flanges to suit your specific need. So the turbo itself has to mount to something, and in my case I went with the Dock Race single scroll top mount exhaust manifold. These manifolds work with a number of numerous RB heads, and they're good for well over 1300 horsepower. The cam that I went with is the Tomei Type B style cam in 260 duration. These specific cams offer really great response paired with a mid to large size turbo. And the bonus with this is you can easily drop these in over a weekend because they're simple drop-in cams. These have got to be probably one of Platinum Racing Products' most popular product. These are their R35 coil bracket kit. These specific coils are rated for well over 2500 horsepower, tried and tested. As far as the fueling goes, we went with the Injector Dynamics 1050 injectors paired with the Walbro Hellcat 525 liter per hour pump. We went with the drop-in style fuel cell from FuelSafe and full vibrant lines all around. We did dash 8 to the motor and a dash 6 to the return, and as you guys can see, it's really super easy to put this whole thing together. As far as the transmission goes, we stayed with the RB26 transmission because I do have a rear-wheel drive car. The crossmember that you guys see there is by Apex Engineered, and it is by far one of the best things that I have ever bought for this car, minus the motor of course. What I'm going to try to do is keep you guys as posted as possible. The next step is really going to be picking up the motor from Gord Bush and really going through the whole build process. So until that time, if you guys have any questions, leave them below and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. See you guys later.